So to start this podcast, we need to address the elephant in the room. Today is Thursday.
Yeah.
We post on Wednesdays.
We do, normally.
So should we explain what's going on, or do we want to leave them hanging? Because apparently that's the theme.
I mean, if we want to just drum up some sympathy for the two of us, I think it's been a bit of a week.
Yeah. So for you guys who have been listening to us for a long time, you know that we have a dog who is a bit older, and she's usually very loud in the background. I don't actually know currently where she is. But basically what happened, long story short, is we realized that she had a mammary tumor, and
it's just a lump that we had to get checked out.
Yeah, and it's not cancer, and we're grateful for that, but she does have to have a surgery, and pretty intense surgery it seems. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've been a little bit off our game and having to deal with that and trying to make sure she's okay and taking her appointment and all of these things. So, anyway, we're behind.
Also, on top of that, we did lose power for quite a bit.
Yeah, we lost power for like an entire night. It was hot. It was disgustingly hot. So we lost some time. Let's just say that.
We were planning on watching the movie, and we didn't have any way to watch the movie.
Yeah. So there's that. So anyways, we're not usually late. We are sorry, and hopefully you guys understand. But yeah, life, right? Yeah. So anyway, you want to...
I'm Tyler.
I'm Shay. This is Cinematically Correct, and this week was my choice.
Your choice.
Yeah, and it's the current movie, which, as you guys know, based on the world we're living in right now, current movies are becoming harder and harder to come by.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna have to likely at some point break down and buy Mulan for $30.
Goodness gracious. I hope not. Regardless of that, this movie was called The Rental, and we rented it on Amazon Prime for, I believe it was $7.
$7.
So if you haven't seen it, which I know a lot of you haven't based on audience asks, I know some of you did because we did get quite a few questions. But if you haven't seen it, it's available. It's just came out, like, I believe it was the end of July that it came out.
Probably.
So, yeah. So do you want to do your beer before we really get into the movie?
Certainly. So this is going to be Brewery Classics MKSD Passion Pool. And I picked it for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that there's a hot tub where some very morbidly questionable things happen.
Yeah, I was trying to find a way to say pool, but I couldn't come up with it. It was a pool of passion.
Yeah. It's also a California beer, and this is a California movie. So, yeah.
And he wanted a sour beer. Let's just be real.
Yes, it is a sour style with passion fruit, so we'll see.
So satisfying. We should give points for just the can opening sound.
That's actually really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you sad that you didn't get more of them?
I did get only the single can.
Yeah, because we have plenty of leftovers from all the times you have to buy 6-packs.
I honestly can't keep up with the beer that we buy for the podcast.
Well, because sometimes you have to buy 6-packs. That's the problem. Did you say the name of the brewery? I just want to make sure that we say it.
It is McKellar Brewing, San Diego. MK's SD.
Yeah, so if you guys want to try it, this is actually one that apparently Tyler recommends.
No,
which doesn't happen that often.
I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It's decent, solid. It's not as sour as it could be, but it's not that horrible pickle juice sour.
Yeah.
So.
Because you've had pickle juice? Gee, I wonder why that would have happened. Oh, jeez.
Because my wife is horrible.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Who knew? Okay, so do you want to give a brief synopsis of this movie for people who haven't seen it?
Brief synopsis.
Brief synopsis.
Movie's about a couple of two couples going on a vacation and finding out they're being watched and also making poor decisions, and then they all wind up dead.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to pull up IMDb right now. So we'll go into the characters. I will say that I think I only knew 2 of the characters prior to this, I think.
I don't know if I knew any of them, honestly, other than Allison Brie.
Okay, so Dan Stevens plays Charlie. He is the one who makes the rental. He has a brother. He's married to Allison Brie. He's kind of a cocky dude. Not much to him. There's not much depth there. He's just a cocky dude who thinks he can get away with whatever he wants. He clearly has money, and that's really it. I didn't know him from anything. I don't know if you did. His filmography said he was from Downton Abbey, The Guest, Beauty and the Beast, which I did see, but I don't remember him. Call of the Wild. Yeah, nothing that I recognize him from. Do you know him?
Well, the only movie on his IMDb that I've seen is Night at the Museum. But
he's probably like an ancillary character because...
I just looked at it. He's Lancelot, which is not Ben Stiller or Robin Williams, so it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, still counts. Okay, then there's Alison Brie.
Yeah. Second Alison Brie movie, I believe?
I think so. So we did Sleeping with Other People, which I love that movie, and I adore her. She's obviously, at least to me, most well known for Community, which apparently only ended in 2020. Yeah. I thought it ended a while ago, but I just saw on her IMDb it ended in 2020, so crazy. But anyway, she plays the wife of Charlie. To me, she's one of the only characters that has any redeemable qualities at all. So she's just, I don't know what she does for work or anything, but she is the only one that seems to not partake in anything horrible in this movie.
Other than drugs, but yeah. Don't do drugs. PSA, kids, don't do drugs. Just say no.
Yeah. So, I mean... I don't know if there's much to say because I don't really dive into these characters much.
No, there's not any kind of depth to the people. They're just basically facades. They're like a mask. They're of an actual person.
Yeah. She is my Gilmore Girls reference, although one of two, and we'll talk about the second one later. But she, let's see, is in A Promising Young Woman, and she plays with Dave Rogowski, who is in Gilmore Girls, and he is Lane's boyfriend. So.
Okay.
Oh, did I say Dave Rogowski? That's his name in Gilmore Girls. His actual name is Adam Brody, which people probably know from The OC, I believe. So. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep, that's my reference. Anyway, moving on to Sheila Vaughn. I've definitely never seen her before. I would definitely know that because she's definitely I wanted to say a unique character. She's not someone that I would have placed in this type of movie at all. But anyway, she plays Mina. I was not a fan of her, if you can't tell. I just didn't think anything she did was redeemable. And I guess cheating just bothers me. Be honest is really what it comes down to. Be honest about everything. And she wasn't. So.
I mean, she is my Lord of the Rings reference.
Okay, go ahead.
So she was in the television show Snowpiercer. I have not seen the show. I've seen the movie with Sean Bean, who's in Lord of the Rings. She was also in 24 Legacy with Miranda Otto, who is also in Lord of the Rings. So it's a double whammy.
So you have seen her before. On her IMDb, it does say she was in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which, if I remember correctly, is a vampire movie on Netflix, and it's weird and crazy and just whatever. And if I remember correctly, it was also, I want to say black and white or like close to it. It was from 2014, but I don't know. It was a movie that, if you guys have listened to us before, we have a friend whose name is Joe. He watches a lot of horror movies, and he forced me to watch said movie, and it was weird, and I didn't like it. So there's that. Yeah, she's in other things, but I don't really know her. But I wasn't a fan of her. Mm-hmm. And then the other person that we have to talk about would be the last of the four main characters, which is Josh. He is Charlie's brother. He is played by Jeremy Allen White, and I know him from Shameless. He plays Lip, and I can't stop calling him Lip, and I might actually do it during the podcast, so I am sorry.
She's been doing it this entire time.
I can't help it. But he plays he's obviously got a brother who has more money than him and has obviously always gotten further in life.
He's basically the black sheep of the family. He's the underachieving, kind of employed Lyft driver. He's okay with settling for whatever life has. Right.
And I didn't hate his character. I mean, he did some things that are not great. But I didn't love his character either, obviously, because of just things that happen. So, yeah, I mean, again, there's not a lot of character development, so we can't really go into, like, what they were as characters. They were just really just there.
Yeah, I mean, then there's the caretaker, who's basically a racist redneck.
Played by Tobias. Now, is he racist, though? Because she starts the agitation and then he responds. So he makes some horrible remarks, but so does she.
Yeah. He also says the white girl called me.
Yeah.
Which is...
That's true.
Kind of objectionable.
Yeah.
And by kind of, I mean very.
So, I mean, he seemed to have been set up as to be a horrible person so that you thought he was going to be the killer, but like...
No.
But like, no. It's 2020. Like, we've seen enough horror movies to know that the one that comes off as the horrible person at the beginning of the movie is never the killer.
No.
He's just a bad person. That's just what it is.
Yeah. And then, obviously, the murderer, but you see him for a total of 4 seconds, so doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, this movie, it's going to be hard to talk about in chronological order because I'm going to tell you, in the first half hour of this movie, I was bored. Because...
I was bored. And
you go into this thinking you're going to watch a horror movie. And I am all down for slow burns. I love psychological stuff. I love things that get into your head. This didn't do that.
Well, I think it just doesn't have the ominous tone at the beginning of the movie. Like, there's no tension at the beginning of the movie. It's kind of like we're watching 4 people on vacation.
Right. I mean, there was tension in that. At the beginning of the movie, they were setting up the cheating aspect of it.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of the film, it didn't really matter. Like, there were points where it was like, okay, like, yeah, they used that, but like, they were gonna die regardless if that happened. So like, So anyway, let's start by comparing this to some other movies that we've seen, because this does play off of some other tropes that we've seen.
I mean, so the ones that I can think of with voyeurism are Rear Window, Vertigo.
But those are wonderful examples of voyeurism.
Well, yeah, it's also Alfred Hitchcock, so...
Alfred Hitchcock, my man. We need to do Rear Window for the podcast because...
We need to do just the entire
Can we just have an Alfred Hitchcock, like, marathon? Because I'm down.
I think my family actually has the collected works of Alfred Hitchcock.
You almost said Robert Hitchcock.
Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock, the entire filmography.
I'm in. Let's do it. I'm totally in. But would you consider this a voyeurism movie?
I mean... Kind of, but not. It's voyeurism poorly done.
Yeah.
I guess is my problem.
Yeah.
Like voyeurism is a taboo, horrible thing, but there's no real impact in this movie. Like it falls flat.
Yeah. Another movie that a movie that I saw people comparing it to that I have not seen was called Welcome Home. So I did watch the trailer to that movie, and honestly, that movie looked way more interesting. It appeared to me, and now if you guys have seen the movie, you want to correct me, that's fine. But what it appeared from the trailer was that a guy was kind of spying on and infiltrating himself into a relationship because he was attracted or something sexual related to the girl. I don't know if he was attracted to her or if he just liked domination.
I mean, if he had eyes.
Well, she was very pretty. But there definitely seemed that it was a sexual thing. So there was a purpose. He was getting involved
that just
for
made
a reason.
Way more sense than just a random act of violence.
Right.
It's like, okay, you're attracted to her, and then you're gonna insert yourself into that, kind of reverse friend zone yourself, I guess.
Right. And it seemed there was a purpose, and he was purposely agitating the husband because that was what he could do. The guy had the woman he wanted, so now he's going to agitate him, and that made more sense to me. Logical. Another movie that came to mind for me was The Strangers, because of the line, why are you doing this to me? And they say, because you were home. So that seems more random, but even in that situation, they tortured the people that they were killing, so it was very obviously a sadist type situation.
Right. It's people doing the bad thing because they think they can get away with it.
Right.
And just... I mean, I have my own problems with that movie because I think there's a scene where one of the bad guys gets shot in the face through a door and is fine, even though it's a shotgun to the face.
So you're going with the plausibility of...
Well, it's just that particular scene bothered the hell out of me. It's like, okay, he's at the very least has splinters in his eyes, but nothing. He's fine. Because movies.
Right. So anyways, it is similar to other movies. It does obviously play off those tropes, but this movie almost feels like it has 2 different movies going at one time.
Yeah.
So we should note that it is a Dave Franco movie, and this is his first directorial debut or whatever. So, I mean, it would be understood that he will probably get better as he goes along and all of that. So I wouldn't write him off because I do think there were great elements in this film. It's just... too many things were happening at one time. Now, one thing I didn't write down that we don't normally talk about, but they did really well in this film, was cinematography.
I mean, in terms of framing the shots and the tone of the shots, very well done for a directorial debut.
It was beautiful. Beautifully shot.
If the movie was just that, and it had a more cohesive plot, great movie.
Right. I think if he gets a little better about working on developing the story and character development, then it'll be really, really well done. I think that's
more just needing a more in-depth script and just in more involved dialogue. Like there's just the dialogue was meh at best.
Yeah. So I guess kind of going with that is character likability. Because we've talked about that in the last few podcasts about, you know, just really not caring about characters.
It's been a rough go a little bit.
About caring about the characters, absolutely. Yeah. So we agree on 3 of the characters being unlikable, but then we kind of have a little bit of a disagreement on Alison Brie's character.
Well, it's not that she's not likable. It's just that we disagree about the course of action you should take in the event of
a murder happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, I will say we agree that the brother, which is Lip's character, and Josh, okay, and Mina and Charlie are unlikable. We don't like him, so we don't like them. We don't care. Okay, now I'm going to read you what somebody said on the internet, and you almost agree with them, and I don't at all. So this is what they say about Alison Brie's character. So they say she's an annoying character, and she plays a lot of annoying characters. Wrong, but anyway. Her choices ultimately led to the death of the handyman. Not that it really mattered in the end. She doesn't want to take drugs that she brought, so everyone else does. They stay up, they have sex. Big boo-hoo. How do you feel about that, at least?
I mean, that's not her fault that they took drugs and cheated. Like, they're her drugs, but...
Right. I mean, so for me to refute that, I would say that she didn't want to bring out the drugs on the night that she did. She was pressured by Mina. She was going to keep it hidden. She kept saying, but I was going to do it tomorrow night. We're going on the hike. And they pressured her. Right. So when she brought it out, she didn't want to take the drugs. And she made it clear that the reason she didn't want to was because of the hike. So I don't think this is her fault that they did that. I don't. She made it clear. Then it says, absolutely wants to go on a hike, even though nobody else does, finds out her boyfriend has a history of a shady behavior. Wanting to go on a hike that you wanted to go on, I don't think is selfish. I think it's selfish of everybody else to have gotten so high and hungover that they couldn't go on a hike that they absolutely knew she wanted to go on, especially her husband.
Yeah, no, it's totally also not her fault that the people let her down.
Yeah, okay, so you're following. Ignores the missing... Oh, no, wait, hold on. That was not right. Gets pissy, so she takes drugs and gets drunk, even though nobody else is on that vibe.
Well, I mean, that is kind of her fault. She's in a bad mood, and, like, the decision to take drugs is a bad decision.
Fair, but they had planned on taking drugs on that day. They just all decided to preempt it.
Well, they decided to preempt it because they did something horrible on drugs, which is not her fault either.
And she also doesn't know. Now, also to say gets pissy, Homegirl has every right to be mad that she doesn't know her husband has a pattern of cheating and be concerned about it when she full well knows that he has a work partner that she has made clear she thinks is a little weird, but she's allowing it.
Right.
So, Homegirl has a right to be pissy. Also, we all know that the day before, he slept with the work partner. She doesn't know this yet, but girls have a sixth sense about these things.
If he cheats with you, he'll cheat on you.
Like, right, and that's absolutely what she's thinking.
Of course. She's thinking, well, he's done it before. He did it with me. What's to stop him from doing it again?
Right. And when he was confronted, he wasn't very convincing. He was like, oh, I must have forgotten the timeline. Come on. You could have said, well, I didn't want to upset you and make you worry, so I was trying to protect you from that, but I forgot. Come on.
I mean, it's the stupid guy saying the stupidest thing that he could possibly say.
Right. The next thing is ignores the missing dog. Dick move.
Yeah, 100%. If you ignore a dog and don't go search for a dog, you're a horrible person.
Agreed, but I don't know that she ignored the dog. I mean, she made comment about, like, where is the dog and hope you find him and whatever. I think it's more crappy that Josh allowed the dog to be lost in the first place. Don't leave your dog outside when you go for a hike. Like, what?
Well, it's on the two people that were at the house. Like, you're trusting your dog with your brother and your girlfriend. You should be able to...
She wasn't there. What is she going to do? Run around just like everyone else?
Also, what dog doesn't want to go on a hike? That's bad dog ownership.
Right? I mean, so she didn't have the right words at the time. I agree. She was high. But I don't necessarily know it's her fault that any of that happened. No. So, okay. Calls handyman that everyone else finds creepy because she wants to use a hot tub that nobody else gives a shit about at this point.
I mean, yeah, that's also... She's just looking out for herself at that point and being...
How, though? She doesn't know that one of the reasons they don't want the handyman called is because they found a camera. So she's not aware of that.
I get that, but at the same time...
They just find him creepy. But she's just kind of like, she said at the beginning, and so did Charlie, give everyone a benefit of the doubt. So she's still on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever. Just because they didn't want to use a hot tub because they screwed in it last night? Finds out about cheating, takes the only vehicle they have and leaves, even though she's on drugs and has been drinking.
Oh, the drinking and on drugs and operating a vehicle? Dick move.
Oh, yeah, that's a dick move. But what about leaving your cheating husband behind where he has no way to leave?
Oh, no, screw that person. Like, I'm totally on board for being as petty and spiteful as you can. That is who I am as a person.
Right. Gets in an accident, destroying their only way out, calls boyfriend she's mad at to come help her because she's effed up.
I mean, she would have likely driven over the spike strips sober, because that's what they're for.
Right. And do you think she was wrong to call him even though she's mad at him? Because I don't.
Who's she going to call? AAA?
Right. And also, she didn't do anything to him. It's not like she cheated and then she's calling. Like, she didn't do anything. No. He owes her at that point. Like,
yeah. That's exactly the right person to call. He's right there.
Right. And he best be coming out after I just found out you cheated. You best be coming if you expect any hope of reconciliation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then dies and it says she was selfish. The thing that they don't acknowledge in here is the big thing that we disagree on. So when, if you guys haven't seen it, big spoiler, just saying that. Okay. So the landlord person or brother of the landlord.
The creepy racist.
Right. He gets killed in the shower, and because two of them know there's a camera in there, they know it's recorded. Now, Alison Brie's character, does she know about the camera at this point? I don't remember if she knows or not. She might know about the camera at this point.
I think they tell her...
It's right around the time she finds out.
Like, because that's where the fight starts, because...
Yeah. So, okay, so she probably does know. But so the debate is, what do they do with the body? Because... the guy has died. Now we know, the viewers, which nobody knows in the place, that Josh did not kill the guy.
No.
He was alive. They walked away from the body to discuss what to do about him as the guy is unconscious. And the killer comes in and murders him. And then now they have to decide what to do with the body. So Alison Brie's character says, we need to call the cops. We don't get to decide on someone's life. We have to call the cops. We have to figure out what to do. And everybody else says, no, we need to get rid of the body because we don't want Josh to go to jail forever.
I mean, it's like he's not going to be less dead if you make it look like an accident.
Fair, but also they killed a person. And, like, accountability
They didn't kill a person. The murderer killed.
They think they did, though. They do not know that they didn't.
I get that, but at the same time, there's no extra benefit for Josh going to prison for killing a person that he didn't actually kill because they don't know that.
But we also don't know if the autopsy would have proven that they didn't do it because he beat somebody and the guy died of asphyxiation.
But given the amount of people that have been locked up for things that they haven't done and that we know about, I'm not trusting the American justice system at all.
I mean, I guess that's fair, but I think she's also right in that if she doesn't want to be involved in that and she wants to let y'all do it, then that's perfectly okay. If she just wants to leave, she's not wrong in not wanting to be involved in covering up a murder. Like, that's just, I mean, she had nothing to do with it. She doesn't have to involve herself. Like, right. Y'all want to do what y'all want to do. I'm not going to tell on you, but I'm not involved. I'm not. No, so. Thank you. Plus, she was, at that point, the only one that had not been on camera.
Yeah.
So, Well, that we thought. Because we thought that the only camera there was in the shower. We learned later that it was everywhere. So, yeah. So anyway, we disagree. I would have called the police even if you had done it. I don't believe in...
Wow.
I don't believe in covering up a murder.
Moral of the podcast is don't kill anyone around my wife because she will narc on you so fast. She will rat you out for her own benefit.
I believe the truth sets you free. I mean, doesn't this movie prove that lying only causes more lying?
No.
Yes.
No.
If they hadn't lied about all of this stuff leading up to it, then it wouldn't have exploded the way it exploded.
They were going to die regardless because the serial killer was in the woods.
Well, that's because it's poor writing.
They were going to die regardless.
Well, in a normal voyeurism movie, if they were being upfront about everything, then that wouldn't have turned out that way.
No, I disagree. You do what you can for your family. He's not going to be less dead by throwing him off a cliff.
Awful. It makes me feel so bad for, like, everyone. Like, just the thought of, like, getting rid of a body because I feel guilty about what I've done is just a horrible feeling. And I just... See, it's the empathy. It's the empath in me.
You wouldn't do that for your sister.
I wouldn't.
That's insane
I
to
don't
me.
believe
That's
in hiding.
Insane to me.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, okay, so
You're wrong. You are wrong.
So, guys, let us know if this happened to you and it was your brother or sister or whatever, because that's what it was in this. Would you hide the body for your family member, or would you do what Alison Brie did and remove herself from the situation? Anyways, okay, so there are a few questions in this movie that we never get an answer to, so I figured we could go through a few of them. One of the big ones is, what is up with the photos in the locked room in the house that they're renting?
I honestly have no idea. Like, they look like they're voyeuristic screenshots.
Yeah, they do. They look like, I thought they looked like dead bodies is what I thought they looked like.
That's entirely possible now you say that.
Because one of them reminded me of like
trophies?
the head of like a corpse, like you see in
Criminal Minds or any of the other shows that we've been watching.
It's a problem, it's a problem. But so if you obviously, like, the ending of the movie, we learn that this guy is going and renting properties and then killing the next person who rents it after him, so he doesn't own the properties. So the reason it's a big question is, first of all, the room was locked, so how did he get in? And second of all, did he plant those photos there, or are these photos from the actual owner and so he's also a creep? Like, what's the...
I think it's probably the person, he's just keeping the photos as trophies for himself.
But why are they in this rental property that he doesn't own? And how did he get into the locked room? I want to know.
I can't imagine that it's all of that hard to reset the combination on a locked door like that.
So he's a hacker too, is what we're going.
Well, I don't know, but how hard could it possibly be?
I mean, I would hope hard. Isn't that the point of the locks on the doors?
Well, I mean, he was making keys at the end of the movie, so he might be a locksmith.
But that was not that type of lock. It was a beep, 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 beep.
Locksmith encompasses all kinds of locks, I'm sure.
I guess there's a lot of things we don't know about, like locksmithing, I guess. So there's that.
I don't know. Where there is a will, there's a way. And he probably had more than enough time to do it.
I guess. Okay. Plausibility of something like this. So as we said, he goes around from Airbnb to Airbnb or other rental company, and he kills the people that rent after him. So what is the plausibility of something like that happening, given that there's always a paper trail when you rent something like this?
I mean, I wrote down, police are going to want to speak with the last several renters.
And you would think that with multiple murders happening, even if they're in different states or whatever, they're going to notice that the person right before is all the same name at some point, wouldn't they? Unless, I mean, I guess if you change jurisdictions, maybe they wouldn't.
But in an age of computers, you gotta have some kind of connecting the dots.
Right? You would think.
I mean, that's also why the FBI is a thing, to cross state lines.
Yeah, so you would think that somebody might say, okay, there's been 3 Airbnb murders in a row. Maybe we should look at who's been renting these Airbnbs. Like, because what other connection could there be?
Let's at least have a conversation with everyone that's rented it.
Yeah, let's just, find out what it could be. Yeah, you would think. But so yeah, plausibility is a little questionable. Another thing is, was the Molly necessary to the story? Because you already mentioned that you don't like that they use drugs.
I mean, it's a poor decision. It is necessary to the plot because without the Molly, they're not going to have the affair in the shower.
Are we sure?
Pretty sure.
I mean, who called the affair before any of that happened?
You definitely called that they were going to have an affair in the first 4 seconds of the movie, but I think that the Molly definitely
pushed it over the edge.
Facilitated that.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, the affair was brewing. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, it was very clear that the affair was brewing, and I think the ecstasy did push it over the edge, but I almost feel like the director put that in there as a way to kind of remove them from the bad thing they did so we don't hate them as much because, oh, they were on Molly. But not, like, they were already questionable. That relationship was already not something that was okay. So even without the actual sex, there was something wrong there. So I don't know if I thought it was necessary.
I think that it was, personally, I think it was necessary just so they have a reason to stay there and not, oh my God, there's a camera, we're getting the hell out of here.
I mean, they should have done that regardless. I mean, we can call an Uber if we need to leave somewhere and we can't drive. Like, we're in the technology age. We're able to do these things. Yeah. So, their phones worked. So, anyway. Okay, so we've been saying over and over that this is 2 different movies. I personally enjoy the voyeurism type movie better. It would be more psychological and whatever, but how could this movie have worked better in that vein?
Well, the villain, there's no explanations, there's no
motive.
There's nothing there for him to do this other than he likes killing people, I guess. I mean,
right, but like, does he though? Because all he does is hit them over the head and walk away. Like, what's the,
like, there's no like in Criminal Minds, which we've been binging recently, there's a reason that you're a killer. You get gratification from watching someone die. Right,
or you're role-playing a fantasy, or it's a sexual thing, or, I mean, there's so many other things.
Right, but there's some underpinning reason, and there's just nothing here for us to examine. There's no, well, he's doing this because he was abused as a child, or they're...
Right, like, and why the voyeurism? What did that serve you if all you were going to do is knock them over the head with a brick or a rock? What, like...
I mean, it's just, it's honestly lazy screenwriting to throw in making people feel uncomfortable because no one likes to be watched.
Right. So is there anything you would have thought would make it better?
I mean, just... So that for me, personally, this movie straddles the line between the 2 horror movie tropes of, to use Jaws and Halloween. Mm-hmm. So Jaws, you don't ever see the shark until the end of the movie, or basically towards the end of the movie.
Right.
And that just does a great job of building the suspense, whereas Halloween, Mike Myers is in the entire movie, looming in the background. The characters don't know that there's something wrong, but there's something wrong. And you as the viewer get to see that progress through the movie, and it's an ominous thing.
Right, so there's tension building.
Right. So this movie follows the Jaws model, but it falls flat, and I think it's because it's a guy. Like...
It's just some random dude.
Right. If there was, like, a creepy cult, or something else that's not some guy hitting people with a hammer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It would have been better served with that model.
Do you want me to pitch my film? Because I can do that.
Or just, I think the movie as it is would have been better served with the Mike Myers looming in the background the entire time. Ominously, as a viewer, there's something going horribly wrong and they don't know it. I
agree with that. I think that would have been way more interesting.
That's where I would have approached it for taking the original story. Is the person is the villain has a bigger role through the start and the end of the movie.
Right, so you see him and you know that he's some big scary thing. Almost like Hush. Where he's like always there. You see him the whole time and just in the background.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's then you think back to all of the subtle scenes where he's there but you didn't even pick up on him for the movie.
Right.
Like he's just in the woods and you see not him but something change or move in the background and then you have the realization that he's been watching the whole time. Would have been better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What's your pitch? Because I like your pitch better.
Well, my pitch is wonderful. So, for me, I like the voyeurism side of things. I think it's more interesting for a psychological movie. So, with that said, I think that the killer needed to be someone who was connected in some way to them. Like, because why are we doing any of this if there's no reason? So, my thought was they showed that he had a pattern of cheating. And I think it would have been interesting to have a ex-girlfriend be the killer, which what she basically does is traps them in the house so they can't leave, and they end up killing themselves. And the group of people they had would have worked. The brother already had anger issues, so if they proved that the cheating was happening, the brother kills the other brother, and then we know that Allison Brie would be upset that her husband is dead, and then they're going to be afraid that she's going to narc on whatever, so they have to kill her, and then the other girl, Mina, ends up killing her boyfriend Josh because she's afraid because of his anger issues and everything, and they're trapped and all
paranoia
of this.
sets in, and just like the whole
we can introduce drugs at this point if you need to make the paranoia worse, and the whole thing. Right. They're stuck in there. They know that they're trapped. They know somebody's out there. They don't know when they're coming in. They don't know why they're doing this to them. They're being fed all this information that this ex-girlfriend has through social media, whether it's text messaging, through the TVs, whatever, and they don't know what's going on and they don't know why, and he's freaking out, so she has to kill him.
It's the two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Right, so she kills him, and then
if two of them are dead.
The ex-girlfriend reveals herself, and Mina ends up living, but she's now gone absolutely crazy, and she's probably like in a psych ward or whatever, or becomes one of the ex-girlfriends that goes on to do this. Who knows? But either way, I think it would have been more interesting.
A secret sisterhood of killing, cheating.
I think I've just created. Yeah, I think I've just created a women's cult. I don't know what I've done.
A woman's revenge cult. That's a very terrifying prospect.
No, hell hath no fury like a woman's scorned.
No, I opt out of that forever. No, thank you.
So basically, Dave Franco, if you're listening to us, like, we can help you out. So I'm just saying, like, just hit a girl up.
That was a much better premise.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I've already had to deal with people stealing my ideas, so it's perfectly fine. So. I know. I thought so. I thought I could just get it out there. Anyway, so since you already mentioned the villain situation and how it was like Jaws and all of that, what did you think of the reveal of the villain at the end? Did you even think that was necessary? The fact that they didn't even show his face, we don't know. They still hid everything, but like all we got revealed was that he was a renter. Like, did that add anything to you? Was it good closure for you?
Not really. It's just more than anything, it's a shameless plug for a sequel.
Basically, yeah. I mean, and he did do an interview where he said he would like to do a sequel, and he has great ideas for it. I
mean, you could have started off with some great ideas for this movie. Not to be a dick,
Yikes!
It's kind of just, this whole movie falls flat, except for the cinematography, which you nailed, Dave Franco, but the rest of it is kind of meh.
Yeah. Now, we have not done a movie by his brother, James Franco, where he's directed. I think we've done a movie with James Franco in it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we have. But we haven't done a directed one.
I think he's in Sausage Party?
Yes, I think he is. Did he direct that? I know Seth Rogen. Well, I don't know. I don't remember. But I know that the big one that he directed that everyone talks about is The Disaster Artist, which is apparently the worst movie ever, but I'm down for.
It's not the worst movie ever. It's a look at the making of the worst movie ever.
Yeah, but it's also supposed to be pretty bad itself. But I'm down to watch it. So we can compare and contrast.
Which is kind of beautifully ironic if you're making a movie about the worst movie ever made and it's a terrible movie.
So it's also kind of perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of supposed to be. Like, you have no choice.
I would be interested to do that and compare their directing styles and see, because James Franco is just wonderful. I love him. Like, not as a person, decidedly. There's some questionable things that go, okay. But he's a good actor. Anyway, so I was going to talk about Dave Franco's interview, but I think we've kind of covered what I want to talk about there. So I had my last question, but do you have anything before I get into that? Because that's the...
Not really.
Okay. So, basically, we have learned along the times of watching horror movies that if you do not see a dead body, then you're not supposed to assume they're dead. So now that we know there might be a sequel, do you think the character of Mina is dead or alive?
I think she's dead, but that's a very good point because we never actually see her over the cliff edge and it's foggy, so she could very likely be clinging to the side of the cliff or
Right.
hidden out of sight somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I had a theory because they made it very clear that Mina's character was not wanted at the rental. Now, it could have been a racism thing or whatever, but it could have been that maybe they felt that she was too sly for this and that she wouldn't be able to be killed. We don't know what the situation is. Right. But they did show in the movie that she was able to outwit the killer. At one point, she throws her shoe over the ledge so that he thinks she jumped. And then he, stops looking for her in that room and goes to go see if she jumped, and really she hid. So my thought was, it's possible that she, again, outwitted the killer and pretended to fall, because you never see her fall. You hear her scream and then drop. So she may have, screamed and then hid. It was foggy and it could be easily done. And then she didn't die. So then maybe she shows up in the sequel, or maybe it's just, she just didn't die.
She has to now devote her life to finding the monster that did this, and she's like the hunter of the hunter.
Right, or she comes back in the sequel and saves the family from dying. Or
so she comes back and she thwarts his plans because she spent her whole rest of her life piecing it all together, hunting him.
Right, so she has one of those creepy rooms with all the stuff all over the walls of everything piecing him together.
So she goes from the voyeur to the victim of the voyeur to the voyeur of the voyeur.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And she's spying on him, watching his moves, piecing it all together in a crazy conspiracy. Yeah. That would be a more interesting movie.
Yeah, I think we're really good at writing these movies, so we should just write a script. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. We should do that. But anyway, so let us know what you guys think. If you've seen this movie, let us know what you think of all this. But I think that's it for the movie itself. But you do have history minutes, surprisingly.
I have a couple.
Tyler's History Minute.
I mean, it's not tremendous, but I have a few. So the first thing I want to talk about is the history of the webcam, because that's a central point of this.
Yes, it is.
A lot of people don't actually know the story of how the webcam was invented.
And you're just dying to tell it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's an uplifting story of human ingenuity.
So it's not like a creepy thing where an ex-boyfriend...
No, it's not creepy at all. It's the epitome of human laziness. And the Bill Gates quote, if you have the choice of a hardworking person and a lazy person, hire the lazy person all the time, because they'll find a way to do it better.
So basically how you would make an invention because of your laziness.
Oh yeah, you just always go with the lazy person, because they're going to figure out a way to do as little as possible.
Fair. I can see that every day.
Mm-hmm. So it was a few people at Cambridge University, and they used it to check the coffee pot in the break room, because they would walk to the break room and then find that the coffee pot was empty, and it's aggravating.
And somebody wasn't refilling it.
And someone wasn't doing the normal, basic, human, decent thing to refill the coffee pot. Mm-hmm. And so they were aggravated, so they just set up a camera on the coffee pot to know when it was empty and full.
I mean, sounds like something you would do.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, it's kind of the peak of human ingenuity for laziness.
And coffee is life, so it's needed.
It actually predates the internet by a couple of years.
Really?
1991. So
I figured it would be after.
It was a closed network in the school that they were connecting through, but not the internet.
Interesting.
So then I wanted to talk briefly about the history of vacation homes.
Okay, because there's a vacation home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the first documented vacation home, which is not actually the first, because the people have had vacation homes for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, was Versailles, which was done by the King of France.
When? Do we know?
1624.
Dang, I was not thinking it was that long ago at all, but okay.
Quite a while ago. And then also Neuschwanstein Castle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that sounds familiar.
So that's the castle that Disney Castle is inspired by.
Oh, okay.
It's in Bavaria, just outside of Munich a little bit.
Gotcha.
I've actually been there. It's quite nice.
Fancy.
It's built on the top of a mountain, so walking it was awful.
This was predating me, because I've never left the country, so here we are.
So if you're going to do it at some point, I thoroughly recommend paying the money to have the horse-drawn carriage up to the side of the mountain.
Oh, I'm in. Horse-drawn carriage to Disney's castle? Yes, please.
But it's just the walk up, you realize why they did it is so that if you're trying to fight the people
You're
in the
too
castle,
tired by the time you get
you're
inside.
exhausted. Yeah. So it was built by King Ludwig of Bavaria, and there is actually a suspicious death surrounding that castle of Ludwig himself. So it's not actually even completed or finished inside, furnished.
Yeah.
So the outside is built, but the inside is not completed.
Okay.
Because he was spending so much money that he had to borrow millions and millions of dollars, and he was putting the whole area into debt. So it's rumored that the other nobles all got together and drowned him in the lake behind the
And this was
castle.
being built as a vacation home?
It was being built as a vacation home. It was not big enough to be a royal palace to hold court and run government, so it's a side.
That wasn't big enough.
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry that it was too tiny for
So
your
it was
nobles.
his quarters and the servant quarters, but everyone else could go to hell, basically.
Oh.
And it's weird because there's 2 other castles in that same, like, walking distance from this castle. So he built 2 other castles. He was a bit castle happy.
But he was offed, so.
Yeah, he was offed in a very shallow lake behind the castle. And yeah, so it's rumored that he was murdered.
Wow. All right then.
So that's what I got for history minutes for
Wow.
this.
Okay, so very uplifting. You know, we
The
went
first
from,
one was uplifting and went straight back.
we should have ended with coffee.
Yeah.
But here we are. Okay, so we do have some audience ask.
Audience asks.
Which I'm shocked, guys, because this is a relatively new movie, but I posted it early like I said I was going to. So
And then we recorded late.
yeah, well, I had good intentions, okay? Here we are. All right, so some of these we already went through. The Film Cactus asked, where did the doggo go, and what's next for the doggo?
So the dog disappeared, came back, and then disappeared again. I would imagine he's going to be found by the next people at Airbnb.
So you think he's going to leave him there at the rental property?
I mean, he didn't seem to chase after him. The dog just pieced out the door.
That's fair. So you think that someone's going to find him and
Adopt
him or whatever?
Yeah.
No, where did he go this whole time? You think you just held him somewhere?
No, the dog's walking through the woods, living his best life.
No, before. Like when they couldn't find him. You think he was just out and
Yeah,
about?
out in the woods, living his best life, being a dog.
So the killer had nothing to do with the dog?
Yeah, no, I don't think the killer had anything to do with the dog.
All right. I mean, I was happy to see that the dog did not die.
We've done a lot of dog murder movies recently.
Yeah,
It's been...
I just can't. Okay, like I can't handle it. So I'm happy to see the dog did not die. But yeah, he's probably just gonna go on to another family, I guess. I mean, it's sad and awful, and hopefully he doesn't keep coming back to this place looking for his owner, because that's heartbreaking. But let's see. Film Trace asks, why were none of the deaths creative in any way?
I would argue that not a lot of the movie was creative, so that just kind of follows.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen movies where they do have creative deaths. I'm trying that one where they were in the Office one that wasn't really creative. I'm trying to think of one where they're really like got creative deaths, and we have seen movies with creative deaths. I mean,
Chucky had a couple with the drones and.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I mean, sometimes it just goes so crazy the other way. So you have to find the middle balance where it's not hitting in the head with a hammer, but it's also not dropping yourself on a buzzsaw.
Right. There needs to be more to it than just the deaths, but it needs to be...
I would like the deaths to be at least a little bit symbolic at times. Like, just drowned in the hot tub, because that's...
Because they were...
That's where it all started. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something more than what happened.
Yeah, I agree. I'll ask the last one. Two Peas in a Pod asked, what was the killer's motivation, do you think? So we've said that we can't find a motive, but like if we had to guess, what would we say?
Because he enjoys killing people. Like, that's the only answer that there is. Like,
so he'd be considered a disorganized killer, as they say in Criminal Minds, because he didn't seem to...
He might be experiencing like a... He's not a disorganized... I mean, yes, but also no, because he sets up the entire camera system.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's got to be an organized psychopath that has no empathy for any other people and no ability to empathize.
But the thing that gets me on the motive is he's not picking his people. It's whoever is next. So it's not like it's couples or it's specifically
well, at the
families.
end of the movie, he sets it up and he watches a lot of people.
So you think that he is choosing?
I think he is choosing, or he's just killing everybody.
So maybe he's not killing anybody until like maybe they cheat or they do something objectionable he doesn't like.
That's entirely possible. Where he watched the couple making pasta. He did the
so your thought is maybe if the people are like just normal, decent people that don't do anything wrong, he lets them go.
That's entirely possible, based off the end credits. But
I mean, that would be a little bit more interesting because there would be motive there.
But you would have needed something at like the beginning of the movie where a couple left and was fine. They just were filmed and they never knew about it.
Right, like they could have had them walking out the door and be like, "Oh, yeah, we left the keys on the counter for you or whatever, and the number to the landlord is right there with you."
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that. So you know that they're alive and they're good and they're not the killers.
That would be a better motive than what we got.
I'm going with that. I like that motive. Okay, so, I mean, that's everything for this movie, and since we're already at 50 minutes, we should end this out. So do we want to go with ratings?
Reviews.
Certainly. So Rotten Tomatoes has it at 73.
Okay, that's fair.
Audience score of 44.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. People didn't like it. Got it.
So I think the critic score is higher because of the cinematography and the shots were framed beautifully.
They were.
But I think I'm going to be more in line with the audience score. I'm going to go with a 5.5.
Okay.
Like there's not a lot there other than the film work, the shot work. It's not a lot here.
No, there's really not. Okay, so I was gonna give it a 6, and we always seem to be like so close that people must think that like we're stealing off of each other's numbers. So maybe like next time we flip who says it first, because I'm not doing that. It's just I was gonna give it a 6 because I like Alison Brie and I love her acting. So that with mixed in with the cinematography and the ideas that are mixed in here are really interesting and could have lent to a better film. I just think that the execution wasn't great. I don't want to give it a horrible rating because it is his first debut, and I do think there were smart elements. But it's lacking in a lot of ways. There's just a lot of things that they needed to do better. So, but yeah, we do look like we're always within like a 0.5 or 1 point of each other. So
get your own rating. Thank you.
That's awkward. But anyway, I had already decided on that. But so is there anything else you wanted to mention?
I think that's everything.
Okay, so next week is going to be your movie.
Yeah, and it's The Basis of Sex.
Yes, it is a Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie.
I'm so excited for this movie because I had no idea it was a thing, and
I don't even remember how we found it, to be honest. I think we were looking at somebody's IMDb and we ended up there.
I think so, yeah. And RBG, we love you. Stay alive for as long as possible, at least until 2021.
Yeah. So this is another movie that's very history based and it's going to have some real like things that we need to talk about. It does obviously deal with women's rights because if you know anything about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was a champion for women's rights. So
I would have to imagine that there's going to be better character development given that she's a real person.
Right. And they're going to develop her as a person.
Well, just because she is a person, there's more material to draw off rather than just creating it in your mind.
Right. So we will see. We haven't seen it yet, but the minute we both found out there was a Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie, we knew we had to watch it. Yeah. So there is that. So that will be next week. If you're not interested in Tyler's History Minutes, then that might be one to skip. But
it's going to be a podcast of History Minutes.
Yeah, basically is what it's going to be. Yeah. So anyway, if you want to talk to us outside the podcast, I am on Twitter at CinematicallyC, and Tyler is on Twitter, blame TylerCC. We're also on every other social platform at CinematicallyC, but Twitter is where you want to find us. You can email us, cinematicallycorrect@gmail.com. And yeah, that's it. So thank you to Jake at Atlas Music for our intro and outro music. And we'll be back next week with On the Basis of Sex.
Thank you all for listening.